Are we doomed?
We're probably not doomed. I might have a little bit of a pessimistic view, and I think it came really after I left the classroom. When I was in the classroom, I saw our ideas impact students. I saw those light bulb moments where they were getting the ideas of freedom and limited government. Since leaving the classroom, I don't get that wonderful reinforcement from my students. We do work with teachers to Stossel in the classroom, and they're using our materials, and it's great to see that we're getting more and more teachers to sign up and more teachers using our materials. I don't think we're necessarily doomed, but we're certainly, it could go either way, I think, at this point, and particularly in certain countries where they're not learning from the past or from other countries' failures.
Esto es La Inquietud con Garret Edwards, el lugar donde hay más preguntas que certezas.
Damos vuelta de página aquí en La Inquietud por CNN Radio Rosario. Tenemos un enorme honor, placer y privilegio. Del otro lado de la línea, conectado del otro lado del mundo, desde los Estados Unidos de América, es un amigo, es el director ejecutivo de Stossel in the Classroom. Ya nos va a contar de qué se trata todo esto. También ha sido profesor durante más de 2 décadas en el sistema de la educación pública de la ciudad de Nueva York. Ha sido también profesor universitario en LaGuardia Community College. Es no otro que ROB SCHIMENZ, and now we are going to be speaking in English. Rob, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. How are you doing? Garret Edwards here on the other side.
Good morning, Garret. Thanks for having me. And good morning to people in Argentina.
Thank you, Rob, for joining us today. So many things to discuss and to talk about, but I'm going to start with a big one. And you said it yourself when we were arranging this interview. Are we doomed?
We're probably not doomed. I might have a little bit of a pessimistic view, and I think it came really after I left the classroom. When I was in the classroom, I saw our ideas impact students. I saw those light bulb moments where they were getting the ideas of freedom and limited government. Since leaving the classroom, I don't get that wonderful reinforcement from my students. We do work with teachers to Stossel in the classroom, and they're using our materials, and it's great to see that we're getting more and more teachers to sign up and more teachers using our materials. I don't think we're necessarily doomed, but we're certainly, it could go either way, I think, at this point, and particularly in certain countries where they're not learning from the past or from other countries' failures.
You just mentioned Stossel in the classroom. There's probably no one in the English-speaking world who doesn't know who Stossel is. But for the Spanish-speaking part of the world who may not be in the know about these public figures, who's Stossel and what's Stossel in the classroom?
So John Stossel is probably the most well-known American libertarian. He started decades ago as a reporter on CBS. Worked his way up to a show called 2020, which he co-hosted with Barbara Walters. It was a hugely popular show in the United States. And he started doing these specials for ABC that were libertarian, freedom-oriented in nature, showing the negative effects of government intrusion, government action, government regulations. So John became a hero to a lot of people because he was the only one on TV in the entire country, really, who was known, who would challenge this belief that government can solve all our problems. So John then moved to Fox. Actually, he started Stossel in the classroom while he was at ABC. He thought there's teachers emailing him saying, hey, you've got great shows. How can I get them to use them in my classroom? So he started this program, Stossel in the Classroom. He moved to Fox, where he had an hour-long show each week, and he had fewer controls. Where ABC, he'd often have to argue to get his ideas into his shows. And he was at Fox for, I believe, 7 years on a show called Stossel. And he decided he wanted to reach younger viewers because that was important for our future. And the average viewer at Fox was something like 68 years old or something.
Yeah.
And that wasn't particularly helpful for the future. And so if we're not going to be doomed, we need to reach young people. And so that's what Stossel in the Classroom is, an organization that provides not only John's videos, but curriculum to use with them. To teachers, we hold essay and video contests each year for middle school, high school, and college students. We're trying to help at least get students to look at two sides of issues, rather than the typical side in the United States is the government is the answer to all our problems.
That's really interesting, Rob, because in Argentina, people feel that education has become some kind of indoctrination in the past few decades. Do you feel that education is sometimes ideologically slanted in the US to a side?
I think I would differ with the word sometimes. I think it's pretty much one perspective. What we've done is we've created this feature called Both Sides, where we pair up opposing videos, and that's even become popular with teachers on the left who promote statism, where they can show two to make themselves feel good that they're being balanced, because I don't think they think they're indoctrinating. The leftists don't feel like they're indoctrinating, and many on the right don't feel like they're indoctrinating. And I had some colleagues, very few, but who were, you could argue, right-wingers, American conservatives, however you define it. And they weren't particularly balanced in their presentations either. And I understand they felt like they were fighting the system. So, but yeah, the system is definitely pushing students towards one side. And it's not necessarily because the teachers are doing it on purpose. They're teaching what they were taught, and their teachers were likely on the left. So, yes.
Let's go and tell it like an origin story. How did you come across the ideas of freedom, Rob?
I grew up with parents my dad was quite conservative. He was a Republican. My mother, I guess she was a Republican. She didn't talk politics, but Dad did. And I think that was a huge influence on me. And then I remember, especially in 7th grade, having a social studies teacher who we were not in. It was clear we were not in the same place. And I thought, wow, this is like, he's not presenting things even responsibly fairly. So I kind of knew I was an outsider in junior high and in high school, where all my teachers were on the other side. And I was like, well, either I'm screwed up, or they're just on one side and they're not showing the other side. And then I got involved. I used to one of my friends had suggested I go to a fee seminar. That was back in the days where fee ran great seminars, and fee is the Foundation for Economic Education. They were based in New York, where I lived, and they gave a lot of philosophical support. And I know now their seminars are much more practical. I wouldn't be who I am now if I went to fee events now. They're their philosophical education is what really helped shore me up and maybe even swing me over a bit from conservative to much more libertarian. So fee, then working with a group called Is It. They produced videos for students, and I helped write guides for them. The more you look at this idea of a freedom, the more you realize, left to their own devices, people are generally going to do better than if they're under the thumb of some oppressive government, even if we don't think it's oppressive.
For many years, Rob, you coached high school baseball. I know that you're back doing so. I have my cap here with me, the Tigers. What can we learn from baseball? What have you learned from baseball? What have kids learned from baseball throughout all these years?
Well, that's a great question. And I've never put the two of them together, but they belong together. It's baseball's about meritocracy, right? It's you've got to earn. You've got to earn what you get. You've got to earn your spot. I would have lots of players on my team. And when we had the games that counted, the official games.
Yeah, for the points, we would say in Latin America.
Okay, yes. So I would have to ensure that we had the best players in the best spots because that was our goal, to win those games. We had games we practiced and got other students opportunities, but the goal is to play well and win. And you can't do that if you're trying to be fair, quote unquote. You've got to put your best people forward, and just like in the free market, you've got to earn. You've got to earn your spot. You've got to earn your customers. You've got to earn your success.
And do you think kids got that lesson? Do you think they learned that?
Sure. And I think it's probably easier teaching it in baseball than it is in life. If you can connect it, and I would connect it and say, this is a meritocracy, but I said that in my class as well. And I also ran my school newspaper. And when I assigned editors, it was based on who's going to do the most work, who's going to be the best at what they do, not who wants a title or who thinks he or she deserves something. I remember on my baseball team, this one young man coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I've been on a team 2 years. I come to all the practices. I think I deserve to start in the league games." And I said, "Why? Because you're there? That's like passing class just because you show up. What have you done to earn that spot? Are you the best kid at that position?" And
what happened?
That he accepted it. He knew at that point that he wasn't, and it turned out later I used to use this slogan, "Good enough is the enemy of it can be better." And I had picked that up when I worked in business. And he emailed me some years later when he graduated college magna cum laude saying something like a 3.5 is good enough, but magna cum laude is better. And I thought, oh, he got it. Yeah. And that's the part I miss, right? It's from the classroom, is seeing the kids get it. And that's why I'm not as hopeful as I once was.
The classroom, Rob. I mean, you know that both of my parents, they are also teachers. You never stop teaching, right? When you start teaching, it's like you never stop learning, you never stop reading, you never stop teaching. Like teaching is something for life, right, Rob?
Yes, and then sometimes it could be overbearing for life. I correct English. When I started teaching, I realized the students could not write very well. And rather than do the finger pointing and saying, wow, these English teachers are just failing, which they were, I thought, I'm going to take over a writing program in my school and at least impact positively 35 kids a year. And I was always correcting English. I thought it was important that they be able to write well for their lives, for their future. And to this day, I'm still correcting English. And maybe that's one of the problems I have is I get frustrated by writing I think is wordy or bad, and I'm correcting everything. And but yes, I'm sending former students emails say this is an example of something I was trying to say in class about economics or about government. Certainly the COVID pandemic was an opportunity for us to teach about freedom with our friends.
But did we learn anything after the pandemic, Rob? Because I mean, it seemed at first that we were forgetting things that we thought that we already knew. But some time has passed. Have we learned anything? Do you think that we have gotten better on the other side, or maybe even worse than before?
I was very open-minded about what was going on in the United States, but we all heard these quote unquote conspiracy theories about where it was created or how it came about, who was involved. Uh, we heard the vaccines were great. We were going to have to take them no matter what, and there was no problem with it. Uh, I learned a few things. I think we all did. I think we learned that there's a lot of people who are sheep who are just willing to follow orders and take directions because they sound good. Often those are the headline readers, the people who don't delve into topics deeply enough to really understand what's going on. Those are the people who I think scare me the most because they're quick to condemn you for challenging, or they're quick to believe something that turns out not true. I think we learned we have a lot to be concerned about because there are a lot in the United States, at least, there are a lot of Americans who just went along and did what they were told. And now we're finding all these problems from that. And the CVS pharmacy by me up until recently had a sign about getting your booster shot because it's perfectly safe. And I know of numerous people who are permanently injured. One woman can't even stand up on her own because of what happened the moment she got her second COVID shot. So I think we need to be able to delve into things a little bit, and a lot of Americans are just following headlines. So how is that in Argentina?
I mean, we had one of the longest quarantines, lockdowns in the whole world, and then the government got together with the Russians and with the Chinese when it came to the vaccines. So we had vaccines that no other country accepted. So when you wanted to travel, you run into those problems. And I mean, it was definitely one of the worst of times recently when it comes to Argentina. It was completely handled badly, and I think we are still paying regarding that. And for example, a couple of days ago, you had the Minister of Health. She was receiving some woman in a public event. This got all recorded, and you had this woman thanking the Minister of Health for letting her see her dying husband that was during the lockdown when nobody was allowed to see their relatives because we were all held in lockdown. But people in power got to make exceptions, and they got to see their relatives, and they got to have their private clandestine parties while they told everybody that they had to stay home, right?
Oh, that sounds like what happened here in the United States. Did, did the people in Argentina learn that, come around that this was a problem, or are they, most of them,
I,
still going, thank
I,
God for the government?
I mean, you still have some people saying, "Thank God we had a Minister of Health and that it wasn't a Secretary of Health," and that kind of stuff. But let's get back to the States, Rob. If the U.S. were a movie, what movie would it be? You have a lot of options, of course.
Well, here's the problem. You've picked a topic that I get ridiculed on because I don't watch all that many movies.
Yeah, but you can have one of the classics.
Can you suggest a few?
I mean, you have one from this century. You have Idiocracy, but that the title tells you everything, right?
What's the title?
Idiocracy.
That's a great movie. I remember a colleague of mine showing a clip. We were co-teaching a class, and he showed a clip of it. I had never heard of the movie before. I've seen it since, but he showed a clip of it, and he misunderstood what the message was.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, he turned this into this is what happens when conservatives take over.
It's actually the other way around.
Nothing at all to right. So, there's a movie, Meet Joe Black, and it's
with Brad Pitt and Anthony
Brad
Hopkins.
Pitt and I don't know who but it's really an uplifting movie. But there's a business component to that's pro free enterprise, about having pride.
I remember Deirdre McCloskey. She always says that there should be more movies that are pro-enterprise, and on that front, she recommends, for example, Joy. She recommends The Founder, which is about the creation of McDonald's. It's really interesting,
Yeah, and that's my weakness. I'm sorry to say, is that I don't watch enough.
Okay.
Enough movies.
Let's do it this way. If it were a song, what Grateful Dead song would it be? You like that one?
There's a Grateful Dead song, U.S. Blues, that points out some of our failures, and they are government failures. So maybe I can stick with U.S. Blues. It's a good song. Yeah, I'm a Grateful Dead fan. I'm sure you have them in Argentina as well.
Yeah, I mean, we do have Spotify now.
I think if you were going to ask me what book, I would probably say it's Atlas Shrugged.
Okay, it's Atlas Shrugged right now, but then at some point we'll get the philosophers coming back, right?
I hope so, but I think you referred to Idiocracy. I think we've moved away from people thinking particularly deep, and their shallowness is what leads to groups like Antifa or even the Black Lives Matter movement, where somehow throwing rocks through windows and torching stores is going to be effective in making a case which could be made much more logically. But Antifa is the prime example that they're so clueless that any organization that calls itself anti-fascist and all their tactics are essentially fascist, they're very shallow. So I hope we get back to where there's a philosophy, but we're not pushing that. We're not educating students at a young age to think philosophically. They're not even thinking practically. They're just knee-jerk emotions, and that's where we're in trouble, I think.
Penultimate question from this interview, Rob. People are reading the headlines, as you said, and some are worried about Trump. But what can we expect about Trump in the upcoming year?
Wow. He's going to continue fighting. He's got the conviction of being very sure he's right. There are millions of people who will follow him to the end of the earth, in the same way that there are people who believe that Joe Biden should be reelected president. Both extremely flawed people. I worry about the Trump nomination because I think could be the only Republican that could lose. I'm not sure how this plays out. It concerns me because in the same way that in New York City, what matters most is the primaries for the Democratic Party, because it's not likely that any Republican will win an election in New York City. So what matters is which candidate the Democrats pick. It's the same thing here with the Republicans on a national level. Who do they pick? And Trump's not losing anybody, even as more news comes out or more accusations come out. And it does come across like it's a witch hunt. They're piling on all these charges, and they've allowed so many people to get away with this in the past, whether it was Hillary Clinton destroying a server that she kept at home. It's just there's a double standard. And again, it's the headlines in the news don't show you that, because you never learned about Hillary Clinton, and you're not learning about Hunter Biden unless you're reading the New York Post or Fox, or you're seeing Fox News or The Blaze or something like that.
Last question, Rob. We ask every interviewee this question because the show is called La Inquietud in Spanish, and it's a pun, it's a word game. And we have a version in English. I mean, it's not as polysemic as the one in Spanish, but we try. What makes ROB SCHIMENZ restless?
There's two things that make me restless, and one is an internal about my life. There are things that I would like to get finished that I'm too slow on getting done, and I get frustrated, and that leaves me restless. But the other thing that leaves me restless is news, and it's what's going on in this country is very concerning. As we talked earlier, I'm not sure how it plays out, and I would like to be a lot more confident that it's going to work out well, but I'm not so sure it does. So in my own life, the restlessness is not getting done what I need to, what I want to. And maybe that ties into my restlessness about what's going on in the world. When I was in the classroom, I wasn't so restless about the future because the students made me feel like there was hope, there was promise. And not having students directly to work with, I don't get that as much. Although I do have, like, there was a student just the other day who emailed me from years ago saying, I just realized I'm a libertarian and that was like, great. And I didn't push the word libertarian ever. I just pushed the ideas. Labels can be a problem, but yeah, that's what leaves me restless. The future.
Rob, thank you very much for the time you have given us today. It's always such a pleasure to speak to you, and we send you a big hug.
Thank you, Garret. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope things work out well for the United States and for Argentina, and wish us luck.
I say the same. Lo teníamos a ROB SCHIMENZ aquí en La Inquietud por CNN Radio Rosario.
Esto fue La Inquietud con Garret Edwards. Síguenos en redes sociales y en www.edwards.com.ar.